Hi everyone, it's Ash from FPL Hints, here with my double game week 34 team selection and preview. As always, if you're able to like, share and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. So what I'm going to do is have a quick look at how game week 33 went for me. I'll also share my team selection for double game week 34. We'll look at the predicted team lineups as well as the captaincy polling data as well. So, without further ado, first and foremost, game week 33. I kind of want to pretend it never happened, but it did. I was in a very strange situation whereby I was tempted to wait for the leaks, but I decided to act upon my transfers the night before. And before I even made my transfers, I obviously was influenced by what was going to happen the game week after, which was the double game week. So I had 2 free transfers at hand and I couldn't roll over again. So I clearly had to make a transfer. So what I ended up doing was getting in Diaz, and there was talk of Foden potentially being injured, not being available the night before due to a knock I think he picked up in the first leg of Champions League football. So in the end, I just sold him. Now, if I didn't make that move, and if I had known that Foden was going to start, I probably would have captained Foden, and my vice captain would have been Palmer. In the end, scored 71 points, which was well above the average, but unfortunately, in the rank tier that I'm in, that was only good enough for a small red arrow. So 2.9 million overall rank, and in terms of how the team did, Dubravka got clean sheet once again, which was fantastic. Again, in that price range, anything that is a fantasy return is basically just a bonus, really. So I wasn't expecting much from him. And then onto the defense, Zabani, just a 1-pointer against United. Again, he was a sub, had to auto sub on, so couldn't really expect much else. And then Virgil van Dijk against Crystal Palace, really was expecting a clean sheet there. Thought Liverpool would hopefully try and secure an early lead, but obviously they're famous for their last-minute goals in the final 15 minutes of this season. But it wasn't even that. They lost 1-0 at home to Crystal Palace. Once again, Crystal Palace have ruined Liverpool's title challenge. I think it was 10 years ago, almost to the day, when they lost out to Crystal Palace, albeit more closer to the end of the season, and it's happened again. So, yeah, that was a disappointment, and that was at a point where not a lot of people even had a Liverpool defensive asset. Of course, Trent's now available, and no doubt Liverpool's defensive effective ownership with the free hit will rapidly rise. So, lost ground there. Gabriel 2-0 at the Emirates. They've had a fantastic record of keeping clean sheets since the turn of the year, and then with Aston Villa and the return of Unai Emery, unfortunately there's nothing to gain there. So yeah, a bit of a disappointment. Wasn't really expecting a clean sheet, if I was being perfectly honest, against Aston Villa, but yeah, just a donut, a 0-pointer is never a good thing in FPL, especially when you've got a defender from a title chasing team. And then onto the midfield, again, Garnacho could have potentially have been a sub 1 for me, but in the end, I decided to start him, and 4 points, then he got subbed off at half time. Can't really complain too much about that, but then got fancy return, so all good. Palmer, out of nowhere, Monday Night Football, like I've said, if I had Foden would have been my captain had I known that he was starting, which the leak said he was. But I acted the night before, got in Luis Diaz, who blanked. The vice captaincy was removed off him, put it on Mohamed Salah, made no difference. And in the end, I opted to captain Haaland, who had Luton. So it wasn't exactly a captaincy blank, wasn't a complete disaster. And Palmer was effectively a differential captain. And then Son, who had Newcastle away, he's actually got a fairly decent record against Newcastle United in the Premier League, so it just didn't make sense to sell him, especially when Tottenham are also fighting for a Champions League spot. And then, to my surprise, they lost without scoring a goal, got absolutely battered at St James's Park. So disappointment. I could have shipped him out for a couple of weeks, but now I've got that dilemma of whether I should keep him because he's got the double game week not long after. And then Luis Diaz, the triple up with Liverpool, complete fail, 6 points, disappointment. And then Solanke, was expecting him to get a potential fancy return against United's shaky defence, and thankfully he chipped in, also got a bonus point as well. And of course, I've got him for the double. And then onto the bench, got Kaminsky with a 3-pointer, which I was going to say it was unexpected, but then when you're at the Etihad, you're going to save shots ultimately. So 3 points there. Muniz, who was going to be the 50-50 between him starting or Garnacho, so got a 2-point gain there. Ait Nouri, again, after his injury, he hasn't featured, and there's talk of him not even featuring at all, or well, starting from the bench at least for the double. That's why I bought him, and probably that transfer's gone to waste. And Doughty with a donut in sub 3. So yeah, on the whole, my rank isn't that great at the moment, and really I need to look for the upside, take even more risks, and hope for the best. And before I continue, in terms of free drafts for double game week 34, I do have free drafts that are available in a video that I'll put in the description in the link below, which shows you the different illustrations that I have. In fact, I might even also put it in the chat as well. So I'll just have a quick look for the link. So just get that here. Great. So the free hit draft video, just going to pop it in the chat as well for anyone that's interested. So onto my team selection. So obviously I have done these illustrations of like free hit drafts, but the difference for me is that I don't have any more chips left for double game week 34, the remainder of the season. I used all my chips in the hope that I could catch up on lost ground. Sort of did. Triple captain was kind of on par because everyone was captaining Haaland. Free hit was a massive fail. Bench boost sort of worked. Kind of wished I had free hit now instead of getting like 12 points in that blank, but it is what it is. So in terms of how my team is set up for double game week 34, as things stand, got Dubravka in goal, got Gabriel, Van Dijk, Ait Nouri, and Zabani. So in theory, I have a full slate defense that is technically available for double game week 34, but we know that Ait Nouri is not likely to start the Arsenal game. Question is, do I risk having him as a starter in the hope that he starts against Bournemouth? So that's something I'm looking to explore, but then Wolves' team is massively depleted at this moment in time. So it's something that I need to give consideration to. I'm kind of thinking I might have him as a sub 1 right now and then shuffle my team along. Like I've said, I've got 2 free transfers. So if I did a -8, I could get in 4 extra players. So I could almost justify him being on the bench. And then as it stands right now, I've got Son, who obviously I'd bench if I'm not going to sell him. Got Luis Diaz, Mohamed Salah, and Garnacho. I can't really justify selling Son. I know his form hasn't been that great of late in FPL, but then, I mean, you look at it, a 1-5-2, 10 against Luton, and then 2 against Fulham, and then the 17-pointer that he got unexpectedly against Aston Villa. But looking at the fixtures for Son, he's got Arsenal and Chelsea, which could say 2 tricky fixtures for a double, but then who else would I buy? And he's got the double in 37 as well. So it would be a bit crazy for me to sell him with all those games, and you'd expect him to start all those games as well. Very important games for Spurs towards the end of the season. So as unfortunate as it is, I'd probably just have to bench him and look for another way forwards. And then strikers, Solanke, Haaland. There's talk that Haaland will probably not even be fit for the FA Cup game. Does that mean he's going to be fit for Brighton? Who knows? So there's a risk that I could potentially sell Haaland. But then you look at the fixtures that Man City have got after Brighton. Just bring them up here. So after Brighton at the Amex, they've got Nottingham Forest away, favourable fixture, Wolves at home, favourable fixture, Fulham away, Tottenham away in the double, and then West Ham in game week 38. And of course, he'll now get the extra rest, as it were, because they're not going to be in the Champions League semi-finals. So if I do sell Haaland, I'd almost certainly buy him well ahead of the doubles and probably even earlier than that. So I can sell Haaland to unlock funds. I'd probably have to sell Garnacho as well to get another midfield slot available. And then I look at the bench, Doughty I could easily sell for a Ben White. Muniz I could easily sell for a Mateta. Palmer, I've got no intention of selling because with Chelsea, they've also got that double game week coming up as well, and he's just scoring goals for fun. Just haven't captained him at all this season, which is a bit annoying, even though I've been tempted to at times. Got the double in 35 and the double in 37, so there's no way I'm going to sell Palmer. And Kaminsky as my sub goalkeeper as well. So the route I can take with my team selection in Fantasy Premier League right now is that sell Kaminsky for Raya, sell Muniz for Mateta, sell Doughty for White, but then I'd also need to sell, let's say, Haaland as well. I just really don't want to sell Garnacho. Just think that he's got that favourable fixture against Sheffield United. He's been integral to United's attack for pretty much the entire season. So just want to keep him in, and he's got the double coming up as well. I think it's in double 37, just if I bring it up on screen here. Yep, double 37 against Arsenal and Newcastle. But in all honesty, if I'm going to get a double United player in 37, it'd probably be Bruno Fernandes. So might need to take another -4 or -8 to do that. I don't even, to be honest with you, need to really take a -8 or a -4. But there's one player, if I could get him in, that not a lot of people are talking about, and it is Martin Odegaard. He's had relatively low ownership throughout this season, and he's been like a star player for Arsenal and very integral to the title run-in that they've had. So really tempted to just get him in, actually. If I do get him in, I would have to sell Garnacho. That's the only midfield slot I could really give up. And I'd probably force myself into a 4-4-2 formation for the double. I would start Palmer against Arsenal. Muniz would be benched, of course, and I'd have to sell Haaland to make that work as well. So that's something I am potentially considering. But I'd have to have like a pretty much a 4-man defense. Could I go 3-4-3 as well if I sell Muniz, perhaps? But then there aren't really many other double strikers I could get. I'm tripled out on Liverpool, so can't get Darwin. Would I get Calvert-Lewin? Probably not. It's Cunha for Wolves. Just not tempted to get any Wolves players with all the injuries that they've had. Is it Semenyo for Bournemouth? Probably not. So, I mean, the only other striker I could get is Gabriel Jesus, but then, if I'm not mistaken, if Havertz is playing up top, then surely Jesus is going to get pushed further back, which I believe is the case. And just another player that doesn't seem to be mentioned a lot right now is Eze. So surely worth considering as well. But it's just a shame that there's no players that double in 34 and 37. I think the double doubles are in 35 and 37. So if you've got your wild card still at hand, you might actually sculpt a team where you can get your doublers for 34 and then have some doublers on the bench and also starters for 35 and 37. So like Bruno Fernandes would be a good example of someone you could easily start in this game week and in the subsequent doubles. So that's where I'm at right now with team selection. I haven't activated my transfers. Will I wait until the leaks? I mean, I'm looking at that first fixture in double game week 34. Is there anything really to benefit from? And of course, we know what happened with the league last week. So yeah, Luton against Brentford, not really bothered. Sheffield United, didn't even mention them. They've got a double. And the only other player I could get consider them for them is Burton Diaz. And after the Burnley match, would I even start him like in the subsequent game weeks? Who knows? So, and then of course, Man City, who have the FA Cup semi-finals, as do United and Chelsea, that they'll obviously have their games later on. So let's go all the way down. There you go. United are there, Chelsea are further up, and Man City play last on Thursday. So yeah, it's just giving me food for thought. And I'm probably going to potentially risk in keeping like some of the single game week players, possibly hope for the best with them. But yeah, I just can't justify selling Son due to double doubles and Palmer either. Like I said, I've got no chips, so I'm stuck on that front. Now onto the predicted lineups, and a special shout out once again to JumpTheWave and the predictors that basically make up this prediction lineup team. So for this team here, you can see it's for Arsenal's predicted lineups, which I believe is for the first game that Arsenal have for double game week 34. And that predicted lineup is for, just get it up here. Just one moment. Oh, can't get it up. Let me just go back. That predicted lineup will be for Wolves. So just make sure I've got it on screen. Yes, I have. So 100% projection that Raya starts, White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Zinchenko in defence. And then the 100% starters in midfield are Rice and Odegaard, and Saka as well, 100%. But then beyond that, beyond those 7 names, question marks do arise, where a slight majority are saying that Trossard might start this match, almost a 50-50 on Martinelli starting, and even a 50-50 on Jesus starting, and less than 50% say Jorginho is going to start. So just on this indication alone, on this predicted lineup, we can see that if you've got like a triple up with, let's say, double Arsenal defence, your Gabriel, I mean, the safest one you've got really is Gabriel, Saliba, and Saka. You could say that you should be relatively confident in knowing that they'll start the first game and almost certainly start the second game subject to fitness. But then you've got these other Arsenal permutations as well that you can consider. Double up on the attack, Odegaard and Saka. And you've got one of the defenders, all of whom are expected to start. There is also this thing with Tomiyasu at 25%. Wouldn't be surprised if he starts one of Arsenal's games in the double game week as well. But it seems that Zinchenko, at the very least for now, will start the first game. So just keep that in mind as well. So we can see that with these predicted lineups via JumpTheWave, and I'll put the link in the description below so that you can also check this out for yourself and the other predicted lineups that they have. They've also got single game week lineups available for Newcastle and Brighton, but I'm not going to mention them here in this video because they're not doubling up for 34. So on to the next predicted lineup from JumpTheWave. We've got Liverpool, 100% for Alisson starting. And in terms of the defenders, Robertson and Van Dijk almost certainly likely to start. But then beyond that, in defence, a bit of doubt comes in, where majority are saying that Trent will start. Only 60%, surprisingly. I thought it'd be considerably higher, but then again, he's only coming back from injury, so perhaps he'll start, get managed minutes, get benched in second game, or have managed minutes in both. And you've got Gomez at 40% and Konate at less than 30%. So there is some doubt with respect to those defenders beyond Alisson, well, beyond Robertson, Van Dijk, and then Alisson in goal. And onto the midfield, Endo just under 100%, McAllister 100%, and then Szoboszlai, who is at 80% as the likely midfield starters. And you've got Mohamed Salah, of course, at 100%. And then beyond that, you've got Diaz, 92% to start. And then you've got Darwin at 82%. So relatively high there. And Jota is at 26%, who also is coming back from injury. And you'd expect him to get minutes, of course, in this match and the next match, but remains to be seen if he is going to start in any of those matches. So just keep that in mind as well. And interestingly enough, I can see on the far right, and I'm not sure why he's on the far right, but Kwanzaa is at 72% as well. So just keep that in mind. Didn't expect him to be there, but there you go. So with the Liverpool players, you can say that Alisson, Van Dijk, Robertson, Endo, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Salah, Diaz, and Darwin are almost certain to start, and then a little bit of jiggery pokery for the other Liverpool players. So it's good to know with the predicted lineups. You could say that 8 to 9 players of Liverpool and Arsenal you could easily call out there. And with Liverpool, with the free hit especially, you could easily do, let's say, a double up with a Robertson, Van Dijk, and then have Mohamed Salah up top. But I think the more popular option I've seen with Liverpool is actually the single Liverpool defender, followed by a double up in the attack, be it Mohamed Salah and Darwin, Mohamed Salah and Diaz, as opposed to Arsenal, where there's more of a inclination towards having the double up in defence, but we'll see what happens. Either way, in my instance, I'm going to probably have to consider like double Arsenal defence and double Liverpool defence. Well, not double Liverpool defence, just double Arsenal defence potentially. Could do a double Arsenal if I attack, if I potentially sell Son, but yeah, I just can't really see myself doing that. So that's where we're at with the predicted lineups. As mentioned, be sure to check out at JumpTheWave on X. And lastly, I'll come on to the predicted captaincy polling data. Let's just bring that up now. And just give me one moment. Just make sure I've got it zoomed in right. So I asked, who is the best FPL captain for double game week 34? Just under 1,000 of you voted at the time of doing this short poll, and a clear majority, in fact, 2/3 of you said that Mohamed Salah against Fulham and Everton is the standout choice, followed by Saka, surprisingly, who's just about got over 10% against Wolves and Chelsea. And then we've got Solanke with less than 10%, and you've got a large, well, not large, you've got a sizable minority who are also saying there are other options. And no doubt those other options will allude to Odegaard, they'll allude to another Liverpool attacker, and even some, perhaps like even a Crystal Palace attacker like a Mateta or Eze if they're potentially chasing rank as well. But clearly, by like a landslide, it's assumed that Mohamed Salah is the best FPL captain. And what that basically means is that if Mohamed Salah hauls against Fulham and Everton, and you didn't captain him, it will affect your rank. And to put it in EO terms, I'm projecting that Mohamed Salah's EO will exceed 166% in double game week 34. Again, we know that his form has been patchy of late, but he is predicted to be the standout choice. Of course, there are other contenders, and definitely there is upside if you're chasing to not captain Mohamed Salah. But if you're defending rank and if you're protecting position, he seems to be the go-to choice for captaincy in double game week 34. So there you have it. That is my team selection and preview for the weekend and beyond. As always, if you're able to like, share, and subscribe, that will be greatly appreciated. All the best for the doubles between now and the remainder of the season. Take care and all the best. Thank you. Bye.